Hey, welcome back to the Miles and Points Report. We are back again this week, and thanks to everybody for joining last week. We had a record number of people, and today we have actually a friend of ours that we've known for a long time, and that everybody here recognizes, Peter Greenberg. Thanks for joining us today.
Happy to do it, Tommy.
You've been covering the Boeing bumpy road for the last few months quite extensively, and also asked a lot of critical questions and good questions in this avenue. And this week it kind of all blew up, and it hasn't been. I called for the man who was supposed to clean house. He actually didn't do that job, so I called out for him to go a long time ago. But what's your? I saw your stream yesterday about this. What are your thoughts for our viewers?
Well, let's go back and let's talk about this bumpy road. It hasn't been a bumpy road for the last few months. It's been a bumpy road since 2017 as they developed the Boeing 737 MAX. As you remember, of course, we had the two crashes in 2018 and 2019, killing 346 people. There was a criminal trial in which Boeing personnel were defendants. Boeing apparently settled that trial with a $2.5 billion settlement, but it was a conditional settlement. And that conditional settlement was basically predicated on the fact or the hope that Boeing's behavior would not repeat itself. As you know, the Department of Justice has now reopened that probe in the wake of that door panel blowing out on January 5th on the Alaska Airlines plane. So that's the first problem for Boeing. The second problem for Boeing, of course, is going back again to 2018, 2019. And this is a long-term problem, which really should be addressed not to Boeing, but to the FAA. Because it's the relationship with Boeing with the FAA, other manufacturers with the FAA, and other operators with the FAA. And it goes back to the dual mandate that the FAA was given when it was created in 1939. One was what we can all support, which was to enact and enforce safety and regulations. And the second one, which is impossible for them to perform, is to promote the business of aviation. And that dual, unbelievable, conflicted mandate is what got the FAA in trouble, and ultimately what allowed Boeing to get in trouble, because the FAA allowed everything you've seen Boeing do, the FAA allowed to happen. For the FAA right now to say how shocked they are at Boeing's behavior is tantamount to the Claude Rains character in Casablanca. And inspection again on the assembly line. Right. And remember, when I'll give you an example. Every airplane manufacturer since day one of aviation, in order to basically figure out if their own planes that they were developing were airworthy, would take a prototype, put it on a test bed, and then take every component part to failure. That's how they were able to write the manuals, either operating or maintenance. They did that for every plane that I can imagine until Boeing came up with the 787, the first plane to be built out of mostly composite materials. And what did Boeing do? They wanted to do a shortcut. And they went to the FAA and said, instead of doing the test bed deal, will you allow us to get the plane certified on computer? And FAA said yes. Why would they do that? Well,
yeah, it was an interesting. I've actually taken a peek at that training schedule from 2018, or from when the MAX came out first.
No, I'm not talking about the MAX. I'm not talking about the MAX. I'm talking about the 787.
Right. Well, you were out for a little bit. Yeah, for the viewers who don't know, Peter's actually on a river cruise right now, so you were out a little bit. I didn't catch the 787
bit. Sorry about
you
that.
Were out for. You're clear as crystal now.
We're talking about the 787 and how it was certified,
right?
Which is ridiculous. You don't certify a plane on a computer. You certified it in real world scenarios. Well, once Boeing was able to do that with the FAA, guess what Airbus did? They went to their regulator and said, well, the FAA let Boeing do that. Certified on computer, and they said yes. This is nuts. Right. So there's your first problem. The second problem is, and this goes back 40 years, which is not just Boeing, it's the original Douglas, then McDonnell Douglas, Convair, Lockheed, you name it. The FAA doesn't have the staff and the resources to do the proper inspections, so they delegated that to the manufacturer, and they were allowed to use what they call FAA designated inspectors who were on the payroll of the manufacturer. If that doesn't scream out flamingly as a conflict of interest, nothing else does. So you put yourself in the shoes of a designated inspector. Is he or she going to slow down the production line for the guys who are paying their payroll? I don't know. So there's your second problem. Now, that problem came to roost on the 737 MAX. And that became part of congressional testimony where the then chairman of the House Transportation Committee, Peter DeFazio, said, this has to stop. Well, guess what? It hasn't really stopped because Congress never gave the resources and the money to the FAA to get them the resources and the money to hire and train the independent inspectors that they should have been having since they were enacted by Congress. So we're dealing with decades-old problems here. And so now the biggest problem is that the FAA for decades has looked at manufacturers as clients, and they've looked at airplane operators as partners. Both of those are insidiously wrong.
Right. Yeah, we have a common friend who works at the DOT, who has actually been part of this incredible audit and the incredible walkthrough that has been of everything that's happened in the last 5 years. And let me tell you, this is something that nobody really paid attention to, and because used to be that the quality control in Seattle. And also with Spirit out in Kansas, it was, there were when a new airplane went to be certified, there wasn't an issue. And the problem is that they started cutting corners at some point. And
well, they did more than that, Tommy. What they did was when they were talking about the 787, for the first time in our history, they decided they were going to subcontract out just about the entire plane to different suppliers. So where is the inspection going on, and where does the buck stop? Now, this criminal investigation right now, which may, emphasis on the word may, have resulted in these 3 executives departing from Boeing, is focusing on what? What did Boeing know, and when did it know it? And that's what we need to find out.
No, but we have common friends. So Larry was the chairman of the board, and we both know him from his Continental days. And I'm literally surprised that the Boeing board has, the way that they have addressed the issue. They specifically hired Calhoun to clean up this mess. That was the reason he was brought in and why he was paid top dollar to do it. And he couldn't have failed more miserably than that.
Remember
doing that,
Well, look, let's go back to the makeup of the FAA. With very few exceptions over the past 40 years, who was the chief administrator of the FAA? A former airline executive. Whoops, there's a conflict of interest.
And then you've got another airline executive that's the chairman of the board at Boeing.
Right. So, well, listen, I wouldn't necessarily call that a conflict of interest, but certainly they have a seat at the table. That's okay. The problem is it's the FAA. If the FAA doesn't finish understanding what their real relationship is with the airlines and the manufacturers, this problem is going to continue. Because remember, Boeing is America's largest export company. It's got huge contracts with the government and the Defense Department. So there's no other game in town. It's not as if the airlines could say tomorrow, although Korean Airlines just did that, we'll talk about that, but it's not as if most airlines can say tomorrow, we're going to go and get our new planes from Airbus. They're going to have to wait in line because the Airbus book orders are full. So Boeing has more leverage here than you think. The problem is the buck stops and starts with the FAA. They're the ones who have to fix this.
Right. And so speaking of, there's obviously massive regulatory issues that will run its course now through Congress. But looking at what you talked about the outsourcing of pretty much the entire airplane of the Boeing 787, and we've seen the Dreamlifter take off. I went on a tour. I'm sure you went on the same tour, and looking at how that's done and how they bring the Dreamlifter brings in the components from all over the world. What happened also after that is that Boeing decided to start and cut costs. So they moved the headquarters to Chicago. They started up a second plant in South Carolina to make the 787, and which has been a big problem with many sorts of problems. And they did this to cut costs. The unions say that That's what happened. That's what, you hire monkeys, you get peanuts, you get pay peanuts, you get monkeys, right? And then the response from Boeing is that we couldn't afford to have the setup in Seattle
across America
because
now.
people were paid so much.
Right, but we're seeing another problem here. And the other problem is not just particular to Boeing, it's particular to corporate America. We've gone from the days of entrepreneurial, swashbuckling, consumer-friendly CEOs to CFOs. And it's a CFO mentality that's hurting a lot, especially when it comes to safety, because they're not worried about they're worried about more than what it's worth. They're worried about what it costs. And there's your problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's been an interesting thing to follow, and to be honest with you, I have a lot of good, really close friends to me. Many of them are retired now that were former executives of Boeing. I still have friends up there, but they're not in that department, if you will. They are in sales and in marketing and PR and stuff like that, and it's a kind of a really interesting thing to see that there was a major shot across the bow. They invested a ton of money to make sure that the 737 MAX was a safe airplane. They got it up into the air. They had it grounded for over a year, and with a massive cost for their shareholders. And they come back, and there are literally screws rumbling around on the plane, and things have not been tightened. Basic stuff that is just absolutely horrific.
Yeah, but let's go back here for a second. You said they really spent a lot of money to make the original plane safe. Actually, no, they spent a lot of money to make sure that they could get the plane certified, not as a new aircraft. And basically that was the mistake. And look, anytime you're adding stuff to the airplane, you're moving the engines, you're changing the center of gravity, you're putting on a flight management system that nobody knows how to operate, and worse, nobody knows how to override. That requires a new certification process that would have delayed their assembly process. And they got around that by basically bamboozling the FAA. We have memos that say it. We know about it.
Yeah, I think that it's quite common, the practice that they did, though. Remember also the Airbus 320, the competitor is only 20 years younger than the 737 fuselage setup is. And, should they have built a brand new plane? Absolutely. They should have done that. But, it doesn't happen in the real world, unfortunately.
No. But Tommy, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about building a brand new plane. It's talking about anytime you make those kind of additions to the original airframe, you have to get it certified as a new plane. And that should be done. No ifs, ands, or buts. And they got around it. And that's why you lost those two planes in Ethiopia and Indonesia, because those pilots were never trained on a flight system they didn't even know they had. And when it didn't.
The first one, yes, I agree with you there. The second one should never have happened. That's
either way. The problem is there. You talk to any American Airlines pilot right now who's flying the 737 MAX, trained on the system. So what they were given like a little iPad tutorial. That ain't going to cut it. You need real world simulator training. So those things aren't even arguable. That
didn't happen after the accidents, of course. But the American pilots did not go through that. The Western carriers, they ordered sims. They were not happy with that solution. So, but I see Rudy's in here.
Okay, but we're happy with it or not. Whether they're happy with it or not, what remains not negotiable in terms of facts is they didn't do it. And by not doing it,
it's crazy that was even an option.
Right. So there you go.
So we've got Rudy coming in from California, and Peter's on a river cruise. Are you with AMA Waterway?
No, I'm with Viking today. We're actually on our way to Normandy on the 80th anniversary coming up on D-Day.
Beautiful. That is a beautiful thing. And Rudy's in California today. He's a little tired because he got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to fly out west.
Before that, actually, but okay. Yeah, I'm a little tired, but I'm fine. Hello, Peter in Paris. Hello, Tommy in Sacramento.
Here we are.
See you.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up the one thing. I know Peter's late for Peter, so we're not going to let him sit through the whole exercise, but we really appreciate the insight. So today, the press release came out. Speaking of, it's related to this. And as you said, it's not like you can run across if you're not happy with your Chevy, you can go over to Ford or Volkswagen or whatever the case may be. It's a long wait list for everything airplane, but it looks like, the word that came out today was that they ordered a bunch of Korean Air ordered a bunch of Airbus 350s. So 27 of the largest model, the 1000, and then 6 of the 900, which is kind of a little bit interesting because they haven't really been a big Airbus shop. It's always been a lot of Boeing planes in there. But the comment at the bottom is that there's also more involved. They are adding another 50 321neos, 10 787-9, 20 787-10s, and 30 737 MAX or 738S.
Yeah, but keep in mind, there's one thing that wasn't in that release. They ordered no 777, the X model.
That's actually the news here, yeah.
Because Boeing has been so late in getting it developed, and of course, because of their own actions, getting it certified. So
right.
There's your answer. But let's be honest. They can order all the planes they want at Korean, but they're not getting them tomorrow. We're talking 4, 5, 6 away, 4, 5, or 6 years from now. So look, there are only 2 players in the game. I mean, the lack of competition is also kind of scary.
Right.
And that also leads to at least some allegations of price fixing. But forgetting that, the airlines have very little leverage here in terms of the choices that they're going to make. Once again, it goes back to the regulators. And the regulators can very easily say that until we're satisfied, not some Boeing designated inspector, but until we're satisfied that this plane is, first of all, airworthy and that every plane coming down the assembly line is safe, guess what? They ain't going to fly. And that's really where we are right now. The FAA has been forced to do that, something they should have been doing a long time ago.
So how do you feel about, what are your thoughts on the Chinese manufacturer that's now in the final stages of their first narrow body plane?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have a third competitor coming in. Yeah.
Go ahead, Rudy.
No, I was just going to add that in, that maybe there'll be a third competitor eventually. Maybe.
Yeah,
but buying from them too.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Right now, I don't see a single Western airline buying a Chinese plane because for a long time, all the Chinese were doing was stealing Boeing plans. I mean, come on. So, and not only that, you have to deal with maintenance. You got to deal with spare parts inventory, a supply chain issue there. Right. Oh my goodness! Can you imagine if they can't, if they can't get the parts in time, the airline's grounded. So right now, I am not going to put a lot of faith in U.S. carriers buying a Chinese manufactured plane.
I also don't think the Europeans are going to be doing it. I mean, it also has to do with the performance of the airplane. It's not very efficient, right? So they're looking at the weight. Yeah. So
listen, I remember 45 years ago, the Chinese actually stole the plans of the Boeing 707, and they came out with their own version, and it kept on crashing. And the reason why it kept on crashing was they forgot center of gravity. Boo. So look, right now, the jury's going to stay out on the Chinese planes, and we're stuck, either good, bad, or ugly, with Airbus and Boeing, contingent on their own regulators doing the job they're supposed to do.
All right. I think that's a really good conclusion for sure. Absolutely. I've got another interesting news to share today. Did you, Peter, do you remember back, or actually, Rudy, you were actually you were living in Washington, D.C. at the time when Reagan Airport was named Ronald Reagan Airport.
Yes.
So how did that go on through Congress and get approved and things like that? Do you remember?
I mean, everybody loved Reagan. It was always known as Washington National Airport, the close-in DC airport, just across the river in Virginia from all the monuments, basically. And then somebody in Congress said, "Let's call it Reagan." And I know what you're about to say. You're about to say some Republicans want Dulles Airport renamed Trump Airport, aren't you?
Yes, there was introduced a bill today. And it was actually Gary that found this thing here. There is Congressman Guy Reschenthaler from Pennsylvania, 14. He invites, there's going to be a bill. It's going to be attached to a bill, like it always. The American politics is quite interesting, and they're trying to get Dulles to be named Donald J. Trump International Airport.
I know, Peter, and I think that's a great idea, don't you, Peter?
Well, here's the deal. Without getting into politics, I'm all in favor of naming the airport after him, as we do with most airports, when they're dead.
Right. Yeah, that's not
like it.
politics at all.
So he has to stock ticket DJT, and they're proposing that the airport code is going to be DJT.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'd watch that stock a little longer before you want to commit to that as your symbol for the airport, because I don't know how long DJT stock is going to be a darling of the memes,
I think it's funny. It's obviously right now, it's not like the GOP House is standing on solid ground to begin with, so it won't pass now. But it looks like, depending on how the election goes, they're going to give it a shot for sure.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. The other thing that I thought was interesting as of this morning is that Delta Airlines have reprimanded. There was a fella there who was paid $700 a year to be to be a member of the Sky Club, and he was super speed in the lounge, and decided to grab a banana with him on the way out. And guess what? He was stopped at the door and reprimanded, and they took the banana from him because you're not supposed to bring food outside. So,
I'm amazed. Quite frankly, based on the way that Delta's oversold their program with American Express, I'm amazed he was able to get inside.
Yeah, right. Well, I flew out of Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport very early this morning at 6:20 a.m. and I stole 2 bags of herbal tea.
Is that a misdemeanor?
I don't know if it's a misdemeanor. I keep looking over my shoulder while I was getting out of the plane at LAX, thinking, "Are they after me? Are they on me?" Yeah.
I thought it was funny because there's a huge, massive Reddit. So it says here, the Delta Lounge, the agent was very abrupt with this customer taking his banana. And I wouldn't call it a mass revolt, but there are thousands of posts and hundreds of posts with bananas all over social media today. I even saw it I'm not a Delta senior or like big elite or top tier there, but I am American. I was noticing here today that there was a big post about this thing here, and this is a picture taken in the bathroom of the Sky Club, and it's even made it into the Facebook groups of American Airlines also. So it's
Tommy, will you send that to me?
I will most definitely. That one should definitely. I'll text the link to with all the photos. And there's also a huge Reddit thread with tons of pictures that have been taken today. And it was like one guy was like, "I'm taking this banana with me," and he yelled it at the front desk there before he walked out. It's quite fascinating.
Well, when I landed in LAX, I went into the Delta Lounge because I wanted to grab an apple. And normally they have a basket of apples and bananas out, and there was nothing there. So I just attributed it to LAX doesn't put out bananas and apples. But then after I heard about this from you earlier today, Tommy, I thought, well, maybe they stole all the bananas, so they took the damn thing away, and it'll be a while before we see bananas.
You got to stop by and make sure you get a picture of a banana the next time you go into the club.
I leave 10 days from San Francisco Airport. See if they got any bananas there. Yes, we have no bananas, right?
All right. So the second to last thing I wanted to share today is that Brightline seems to be doing brilliantly in Florida, and you can't buy tickets there. There are if you are buying at high demands period. So it looks to me that the shareholder meeting that was the investors were told yesterday. So this is from earlier in the week, from Monday. No, from a couple of days ago, and the demand for the service on the longer haul routes, it is so it exceeds supply. On most of the 50% of the trains are 80% plus. The rest of them are full. So they are now ordering more train sets that are supposed to be coming in fairly recent, as soon as the summer. I didn't expect that to happen so quickly. And they have now 14 round trips a day between Orlando and Miami.
So you got to book ahead is the moral here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the nice thing about Brightline is they now go all the way to the Orlando airport, which is nice.
Yeah. Exactly. So it means that people are on the coast. And there was also news today. I didn't prepare in advance, but I also saw that one of the stations before Palm Beach, after West Palm, there's now a new station that's going to be built. So there will also be stopped. The way that what's suffering right now is the local routes on the East Coast that goes between the local traffic, if you will, where they're not selling tickets. Or if they are selling tickets, it's $100 to take a local train because of the demand. They're focusing on getting paid the higher revenue for the longer haul passengers, right? So I would say that's good news, right?
I guess
yeah.
for the but are you saying that on the shorter routes they're charging a ridiculous amount of money because they want to?
They are. I have a friend of mine who commented on here just earlier today, and he said, and he said that, hey, they need to offer, if they're going to be successful in the shorter stations on the East Coast of Florida, they need to start offering things. He tried to get to some sort of a football game, and it was $100 to take it, from a station where he lives down to Miami to go to see a football game. That's crazy. So, but what are you going to do when the trains are full? Then you're going to take the passenger that pays the most money. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hey, welcome to the world of airlines. It's surge pricing.
Right, no kidding. Speaking of train, meanwhile, in California, there's a Newport Beach-based company called Dreamstar Lines who are going to resurrect a sleeper car nightly service between LA and San Francisco. And it's actually going to happen. They're gunning for coming online with this. It'll be a longer journey. So it'll start. Dreamstar is going to use a vintage Pullman train for this, which I thought was kind of interesting.
You do the other way? Can you come San Francisco to LA, do you think?
I'm sure you can also do that.
Listen,
but it is obviously super expensive. It's $600 each way.
Sure, my prediction is they'll do very, very well on Friday and Saturday nights, and they'll die the other 5 nights of the week. Especially
at $1,200 round trip. That's crazy.
All right, we got Jamie also adding him to the stage here. I had to have a pinch hitter because I thought, Rudy might end up at the Ivy getting drinking champagne, and Peter Greenberg, it's in the middle of the night, so he might fall asleep. So we have Jamie as the pinch hitter in front of a brick wall.
Peter's usually at the Crazy Horse this hour of night. I don't know. The women must be looking out in the audience.
He's actually on a river cruise ship.
Oh, that's right. He's on the river. Okay.
Right. The last thing I have, a couple of smaller things. Spirit is, starting to chop away at. They finally have gotten their engine problems taken care of for their Airbuses that they're doing, and they have now announced a ton of new routes that they're going to be opening frequencies in various things. So O'Hare to Portland, Burbank, they're going to do also Portland. So they're literally going to the throat of Alaska. They're doing San Diego to Portland. They are doing Newark to Columbus, which nobody cares about. And then they got Boston to Columbus and Boston to Detroit, Boston to Pittsburgh, and San Diego to Salt Lake, which also is served by Alaska and Delta, and then and also Southwest, of course, and then Fort Lauderdale, Florida to Salt Lake.
Well, most of these new routes, if you may notice, are announced for June. And if you look at the way Spirit and also Frontier introduces new routes, you'll quickly determine, based on history, that if they don't get the loads within 2 weeks, they pull out. They're in and they're out. Oh yeah, they're not. They will tell you they're in there for the long run. I will guarantee you that 65% of these routes will not be around in September. They're just testing the waters because they're looking for markets where they can have some impact where they're not having impact now. So look, I'm all in favor of it. I love it because it basically lowers fares in the market in which they enter. But I wouldn't right now. I'm not betting on them being around in a year. Not Spirit, but I mean those routes.
Right.
They're currently constructed.
They have for where I live in Sacramento, they have introduced they have done that in the past. It's taken a while for them to pull out, but the Vegas one stuck from here to Vegas and also to Denver stuck and has expanded significantly. And they've also we talked about last week. I would love to get your take on that, Peter, on Avelo. And Avelo setting up shop and basing 2 737s in Santa Rosa, California, and Sonoma Airport, the Peanuts Airport, and starting expanding there.
You got to give a big cheers to Avelo because they just turned a profit. And
I saw that.
They're turning a profit. Picking announcing a lot of new routes at the same time. Santa Rosa is an interesting choice because they're not the only airline that's now announced that flying in there. Up until now, the airline that's been dominating that market's been Horizon on the Dash models out of Seattle and out of LAX. So it'll be interesting to see how they can look. There's a market, and that's Santa Rosa Airport, that can only get better because they had such infrequent service. So I think that's great.
Right. Yeah, Alaska has been kind of the king of the castle there. They also started, Avelo was so successful with their Vegas route, which has been their biggest seller, that they've increased frequency. Of course, Alaska then opened that route. It's starting now in a month from now. And, but the airport, I mean, for people that want to try to avoid the Bay Area, all the tolls and all the traffic getting through there, it's a, you know, it's a great community from Healdsburg to all the way down to the coast, and also wine country it's you know, avoiding SFO can be a beautiful thing. So they've opened up, you know, some, you know, Avelo, you know, our friend Andy Levy is a good guy, came from Allegiant, where he was CFO, and
he was at United before that.
Yes, exactly. And also before then, he was side by side with me in the telecommunications industry. A really hardworking guy, and he turned a profit. I mean, how many people were believing that they would stick around for long?
No, good for them. I like that idea. Listen, if you take a look at what's going on in the airline business now, every airline has become a low-cost carrier. I include Delta, United, and American for that. In the old days, we used to call that predatory pricing. And so for airlines like Spirit, Frontier, even JetBlue, and Avelo to be able to hang in there against the big three, you know what? More power to them.
Right. And the last thing on the list today, which is over in the Miles and Points, a lot of talk about Bilt, American not working with Bilt anymore, and Alaska joining and being a new partner. Now we're coming up on Rent Day. Jamie, are you ready for Rent Day?
I am
Rudy,
ready.
for that matter.
I'm Mr. Bilt. What have they got? Have they announced any promotions yet?
They have. It is fitness classes and all sorts of things like that. So I guess no. Jamie, what was it again?
I have not heard.
I think they announced it a little closer to the first of the month. I don't think these are the. Well, no, they're saying April rent. You're right. Well, 6 times for meals, but it's
Jamie,
only.
What was it? Did you read it today?
It's
no, I have not.
They're on the Bilt, but they're Bilt restaurants. They're just in like 4 cities and not many restaurants. It's not like any restaurant, you know. So I
think that at the end of the day, the Bilt situation is this month. It's 2 to 6 times on rent day purchases, and the rent day purchases is, you know, dining, and it's not just the Bilt restaurants, Rudy. It's any restaurant on rent day.
Well, is it any purchase or just
any restaurant? Any restaurant.
So it normally earns 3 times, but on rent day it earns double, so it's 6 times.
Right. It doesn't have to be the Bilt. You earn more from the Bilt restaurants.
Okay. The 3 points during the regular days of the month.
3x.
The Bilt restaurants, of which there aren't many yet. So
right. Well, the 3x is actually for any restaurant. You don't have to go to the Bilt ones.
That's true.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, though, it's fitness stuff. Get a great deal on fitness classes. I thought that this was kind of weak this month. Is this the complete thing, though?
Looks like it.
Yeah, well, that's a lame month. So that officially bottomed out. And those are all the news and stuff that I have for today, for this week. Anybody else have I know that did anybody have anything else they wanted to chat about?
There's actually something brand new as of a few minutes ago. I don't know if you saw it, kind of hit the wires here, that the Chase Sapphire Reserve and Ritz-Carlton card are losing the restaurant access with Priority Pass.
I know. That was the last straw. And you know why, right?
Well, you've got these idiots that are going into restaurants and just ordering a bunch of takeout and all sorts of crap and abusing it. But
right, there's a Reddit thread, and there's also in these Facebook.
Amy, I don't understand this. Tell me this again.
So there is for airports and some airports.
You can use your okay.
You get a $28 per person credit for your Priority Pass if you use your Chase card or you use any Chase card that has the Priority Pass, so either the Sapphire Reserve or the Ritz-Carlton card. In an airport where there's not a lounge, or you don't want to go to the lounge, it's overcrowded. Like if you're in San Francisco and the Centurion Lounge is mayhem, you can go downstairs to the Yankee Clipper restaurant and you can order up to $28 per person on the check there and sign it to your card, and it's completely free. And what's been happening is that you have all of these miles and points jackasses that are doing way too much of these things. We have people buying refundable tickets going into Portland Airport, picking up with their whole entire family with 2 cars and picking up $120 and then heading out. And that's the end of that. And I was just saying that the other day. It's like, this is why we can't have nice things. We were literally, Jamie and I was talking about this a week and a half ago. Now it has happened, and American Express used to have it, and
like a lot of effort. That sounds like a lot of effort to get a free $28 meal.
Hey,
Rudy, you don't understand that people will go to the lengths of the world to connect an airport.
You know what my dad used to say? The last idiot has not yet been born. And now it's gone for us who are actually, when you go to an airport and there is a restaurant, it was for those who don't, take advantage of this and actually go to these restaurants because they don't even check your boarding pass, right? That's how they get away with it. So, but anyways, that's breaking news today. That kind of sucks. And we were just in Hawaii. We had a layover in San Francisco. And we had a meal there, so that's it. I wish everybody Rudy, did you have anything that you wanted to add today?
No, you covered it. I came in while you were the item I sent you was about the announcement last week that Korean Air was buying a bunch of Airbuses, but you guys were covering it as I joined late. I joined late as well, Jamie. So beautiful.
Well, I thank you so much, Peter, for taking time in the middle of the night. I enjoy the cruise fest and also the anniversary on the coast when you get to Normandy. It's a humbling experience walking there.
And Tommy, please send me that image of the banana in the bathroom.
Yes, I'll send you both the Reddit thread and also to the article which has all the photos in it.
Copy me on that. Copy me on that too, will you, Tommy?
It actually, I texted it to you a while back, Rudy, but I'll send it again.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good week. And thanks, everybody, for dialing in today. I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week.